It's good now, right? So we'll read the translation again.
Yes.
Just you can read again.
Yes.
Yeah. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame and infamy. All these are various qualities of living beings are created by me alone.
However, you can maximize this window. There is something else on the side.
Yeah. Okay.
Ahimsa. Stop ahimsa.
Yeah, now it is perfect.
There you
Good.
go.
Yes, very good.
I think
Perfect.
we're on ahimsa.
Huh?
We stopped. We begin today from the paragraph that says ahimsa, non-violence. I see.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Keep going. There,
Ahimsa.
at the bottom, yes, ahimsa.
There we are.
There. Okay.
Ahimsa, non-violence, means that one should not do anything which will put others into misery or confusion. Material activities that are promised by so many politicians, sociologists, philanthropists, etc., do not produce very good results because the politicians and philanthropists have no transcendental vision. They do not know what is actually beneficial for human society. Ahimsa means that people should be trained in such a way that the full utilization of the human body can be achieved. The human body is meant for spiritual realization, so any movement or any commissions which do not further that end commit violence on the human body. That which furthers the future spiritual happiness of the people in general is called non-violence. Samatha.
Just if anybody has any comments.
Well, we can do comments each time. Yeah, any comments on this one?
And of course, not killing animals is part of ahimsa too, right?
Prabhupada always makes it very clear that that nonviolence doesn't just mean not killing the body or hurting the body, but it also means not impeding a person's spiritual life. So you have a situation where it says philanthropists, politicians, they don't know what they're doing because they don't understand spiritual life at all. So therefore, they are committing violence, even if they think they're doing good. Any other thoughts? We can go to the next one. Oh, you got something you want to put there, Gajendra?
Yeah, I was just saying, like, so in general, ahimsa or non-violence is understood to be like not killing anyone or.
Yes.
But I think this is taking us to the next level.
Yes.
It's expanded.
Yeah.
Where
Because-
even like,
Because
even
if you,
sorry, yeah.
even if you're killing the body, that's only part of it. And you can what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just saying the same. So even if you are restricting your spiritual progress, or
Yes.
anyone is restricting anyone's spiritual progress, is committing a violence.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's very important to understand. So it's not just the materialistic body, but also the suksham shari, the shuttle body, which we call about, and then the soul itself,
Absolutely.
spiritual progress of that.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Next verse, I guess. Next one. Samatha.
Samatha, equanimity, refers to freedom from attachment and aversion. To be very much attached or to be very much detached is not the best. This material world should be accepted without attachment or aversion. That which is favorable for prosecuting Krishna consciousness should be accepted. That which is unfavorable should be rejected. That is called samatha, equanimity. A person in Krishna consciousness has nothing to reject and nothing to accept, save in terms of its usefulness in the prosecution of Krishna consciousness. So we're not being led by our instincts, either hating or being very attached, being very detached, but being very peaceful, equanimity, and then being able to choose that which is beneficial for our spiritual progress and for the spiritual progress of the people we have some influence on, like our family members, for example, our friends.
Any thoughts or questions? There's a point here being made. A person in Krishna consciousness has nothing to reject and nothing to accept, save in terms of its usefulness in the prosecution of Krishna consciousness. This is something that's also referred to as yukta vairagya, or using everything in Krishna's service. In other words, not being attached to something for my own purposes, but being attached to it in order to serve Krishna. Like I'm growing a beautiful flower garden, I want to offer the flowers to Krishna. I'm cooking a nice meal, I'm offering it to Krishna. My whole family life, I'm offering that to Krishna because I'm raising the kids to be Krishna conscious. That's the idea.
Is a very beautiful use of the word here, attachment, aversion, because that is the root cause of all the other symptoms of inequanimity, like anger, greed. All of those emanate, the root cause of all of those is actually the attachment. So
absolutely,
Prabhupada has given us the source of all the causes of inequanimity, which is attachment and aversion.
If we go back to the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it says that verse 62, it says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So you contemplate with your senses something, and you become attached to it. Then you become lusty for it, you have to have it. And from that lust, anger arises if you don't get it. From anger, complete delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So there's the whole cycle. You look at something, you want it, you fight for it, you don't get it, you get angry, and then you get confused. Then you start acting in ways which are not very intelligent. You get bewildered, and eventually you just fall into a very bad state. That's the material world for so many people.
And the process of yoga is to actually come to the point of samatha, of equanimity of mind. So many verses in the Bhagavad Gita talk about being, not attached, not averse, just being peaceful and centered, and being able to use the intelligence to make the right decisions. And
there's an interesting sentence here: to be very much attached, or to be very much, or to be very much, to be very attached, very much attached, or to be very much detached is not the best. In other words, we don't want to be we don't want to be extreme. Some people, they'll say, I reject the world. Well, that's not Krishna consciousness. We accept the world because Krishna made this world. We just want to use it in a way which is to glorify Krishna.
And help others.
And help others.
Samatha, it seems that thought just struck me, is very much sounding like same, which is what it is you are the same no matter the circumstances. In Hindi, there is a word samanta.
Samanta.
So which also means you are the same, you are on the flat line. So it seems maybe the word same comes from samatha.
It may, these languages are connected. It's interesting.
Samta is also a Hindi word, right?
Hindi word.
Okay.
Cool. Move on to the next.
Next, who'd like?
Pushti, Mukesh Manuri.
Tushti, satisfaction means that one should not be eager to gather more and more material goods,
by unnecessary activity. One should be satisfied with whatever is obtained by the grace of Supreme Lord. That is called satisfaction. Tapas means austerity or penance. There are many rules and regulations in the Vedas which apply here, like rising early in the morning and taking a bath. Sometimes it's very troublesome to rise early in the morning, but whatever voluntary trouble one may suffer in this way is called penance.
Reenaji?
Similarly, there are prescriptions for fasting on certain days of the month. One may not be inclined to practice such fasting, but because of his determination to make advancement in the science of Krishna consciousness, he should accept such bodily troubles when they are recommended. However, one should not fast unnecessarily or against Vedic injunctions. One should not fast for some political purpose that is described in Bhagwad Gita as fasting is ignorance. And anything done in ignorance or passion does not lead to spiritual advancement. Everything done in the mode of goodness does advance one. However, and fasting done in terms of the Vedic injunctions enriches one in spiritual knowledge.
So any thoughts or comments about this? It's a long paragraph.
Yeah. It's saying one should not fast for some political purpose, like Bhuk Hartal, people go to Bhuk Hartal.
Exactly. Amaran Anshan.
But for who? For political
Hunger
purpose?
strike.
Huh?
People in India do the hunger strike for
Right.
some political objectives.
And you know, Prabhupada would use the example that someone like Gandhi is very, very to be revered. He's a very saintly person, and he carried the Gita, and he had great spiritual realizations. But the fasting he did not help anybody spiritually. It was for political purposes. So Prabhupada wants us to understand that when we do anything, we need to do it strictly for spiritual purposes, like we fast for Janmashtami or for Ekadasi, or we fast for different appearance days of saints. So it has a spiritual potency, and it isn't just something done for a physical or a material reason. If anything done for a material reason, it won't really bring any advancement in our spiritual life. It might get some material benefits, but those are all temporary. And Prabhupada's writes, tapas means austerity or penance, and there are many rules and regulations. Like someone might get up early in the morning and take a cold shower in order to get off to work and be a really great worker. Well, that's not why we would do it. We would want to get up early and take a bath so that we could chant our japa and be have a clear mind for serving Krishna.
While performing the process of bhakti, it is not necessary at all to perform these very severe penances and austerities, because we are not. The purpose is not to cause damage to the body. The body is an instrument that we have to serve the Supreme Lord. So whatever we can do, we do. But if it is too extreme, of course, that is not part of the bhakti process at all.
It's moderate activities. Some people would consider not drinking coffee or not eating meat to be a horrible penance. But for us, we realize that these things are just help us become more Krishna conscious, because they regulate our activities and keep us from engaging in things that are hurting us spiritually. Any other thoughts? We can move on if that's.
Soyal Mataji?
Charity?
Are you on mute? आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Oh, he's speaking. Oh, he's on mute.
Do you want to be closer, Mataji?
think she's muted probably.
Nine.
No.
Now am I audible?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you're audible. थोड़ा slow आ रहा है, थोड़ा जोर से loud बोलना पड़ेगा.
Okay. Is this clear now?
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
As for charity,
A little echoey.
As far as charity is concerned, one should give 50% of his earnings to some good cause. And what is a good cause? It is that which is conducted in terms of Krishna consciousness. That is not that is not only a good cause, but the best cause. Because Krishna is good, his cause is also good. Thus, charity should be given to a person who is engaged in Krishna consciousness. According to the Vedic literature, it is enjoined that charity should be given to the Brahmanas.
Deo?
Sorry. I'm reading from the book, so I
Oh, that's okay.
Sure.
That's fine.
Should I read further, Prabhu?
It's okay. Let's let Deo continue.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Yes.
This practice is still followed, although not very nicely in terms of Vedic injunctions. But still the injunction is that the charity should be given to the Brahmins. Why? Because they are engaged in higher cultivation of spiritual knowledge. A Brahmin is supposed to devote his whole life to understanding Brahman. Brahma Janati Brahmana. One who knows Brahman is called Brahman. Thus, clarity is offered to the Brahmanas because they are always engaged in higher spiritual service and have no time to earn their livelihood. In the Vedic literature, charity is also awarded to the one in the renounced order of life, the sannyasis.
Sonali?
The sannyasis beg from door to door, not for money, but for missionary purposes. The system is that they go from door to awaken the householders from the slumber of ignorance. Because the householders are engaged in family affairs and have forgotten their actual purpose in life, awakening their Krishna consciousness. It is the business of the sannyasis to go as beggars to the householders and encourage them to be Krishna conscious. As it is said in the Vedas, one should awake and achieve what is due him in this human form of life. This knowledge and method is distributed by the sannyasis. Hence, charity is to be given to the renouncer of life, to the brahmanas, and similar good causes, not to the whimsical cause.
say for example, one can give a lot of money to, I don't know, feed the poor, which is a very charitable act, or one can give some money to publish books of transcendental knowledge to give to other people. And one of them is a material cause, the other one is a spiritual cause. So if we use our money for a higher cause, then the benefit for us is also a spiritual benefit also, not just some kind of good karma that results in good karma later on, a good, good birth or good, situation in life. So that's another thing to consider.
Prabhuji, a question.
Yes.
The number quoted here, 50% of earnings to some good cause.
That's a
What
little
are your
high. Well, here's where this number comes from, and Prabhupada brings it up, but he never really forced this or required it in any way. He takes this number from the Rupa Goswami's example in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. We have the example of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, who were great. They were, first of all, they were great teachers, acharyas in our line, but they had become big government ministers and had even taken up Muslim names. And when they left their government service, they had lots and lots and lots of money. So they gave 50% of their money to Krishna consciousness for the purpose of preaching, and they kept a quarter for their family and a quarter for emergencies. So that's the example that he gives from the scriptures. But
No.
practically speaking, Prabhupada never really enforced that or felt that that was his whole idea was you serve Krishna with your body, mind, or words, or all of them if you can. Somebody can do service in the temple or do some kind of service as a pujari or priest, that's with the body. Someone may be a speaker and a teacher and they use their mind. And someone may be a wealthy person. And they can give, maybe not 50%, but they can give an ample amount of money. Let's take Ambarish Das, who's Alfred Ford. He's bankrolling to a large extent the big Mayapur project. I mean, he's probably given maybe a quarter of the money that is needed to. I don't know, but he's given a good chunk of the money needed to build that building, the temple. So that's really what he's saying. That we should when we have money, when we have funds or resources, we should find a good cause. I remember Tripurari Maharaj used to say, if you have disposable income, don't use it on things like going to Disney World. Use it for going on pilgrimage, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
I think that 50%, Prabhuji, as you mentioned, I think it was given when those saints they renounced their
yes.
And
they had a lot to renounce too.
Yeah. So I think this is what I'm saying. Like when you try to get like retired into a sannyasi life, you should give your 50% of earnings to that cause.
If a person who's a sannyasi would give up everything, of course. But for a householder having to send kids to college, that's not happening.
Yeah.
But the inclination to give to somebody is there in the heart. So when one has in excess, one wants to give, but to whom is he giving? So one has to be, again, very, very discriminatory, to use the intelligence to give to the best cause. And the best cause is that which promotes knowledge about who we are, who the Supreme Lord is, and our relationship with the Supreme Lord, for worship of the Supreme Lord also. So those are the points that are being presented, not that we're going to close the book right now because we're so scared that I'm being asked to give 50%, nothing like that. Nothing like that.
The other point that comes up in this regard, we hear from some friends who might be a little naive in thinking, they balk at the suggestion of giving to temples and for these Brahmin type charities, because they are more inclined to think what good will that result in? Why not give to a school that is teaching the kids, or maybe hospital, this or that? How would you suggest we respond or have a discussion with those kinds of people?
That's a very good question. I think we're dealing here with a level of what we call qualification. We would use the word adhikar. For a person who's not at a level of great faith, you have to go to the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it says, if you can't do this, and if you can't do this, do this. And it actually gets to the point, it says, if you can't even engage in anything in of Krishna spiritual consciousness, then give to some good cause. So for some people, giving to a good cause, that's as good as they can do, because they don't have the insight to see a higher value to this yet. So for someone like that, you give your association, you try to teach them how Krishna consciousness is an uplifting and a very important activity that brings us closer to God, and that's the highest thing. So eventually they might say, I'm going to give 75% I wanted to give to that church, school, but I'll give a little bit now to the temple. So, and eventually they may say, I want to give most of it to the temple and a little less to the church, to the school.
It really depends on how we see things. The more clear our vision, the more we understand what is superior. But we always encourage people to do acts of devotion. And an act of charity is never to be given up.
Yeah.
It says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagwad Gita, never give up acts of fun, because they are very sattvic. They give you, unless the person is just doing it for the wrong reason, but they are purifying activities. And the more we come to the level of sattva, goodness, the easier it is to eventually come to the level of transcendence. That's all explained in the Shastra.
And it's a good question, though. And so therefore, try to bring your friends to a better understanding through your own lives, and then they will eventually maybe see the value in really giving in Krishna consciousness.
People need to see other people be happy, peaceful, and satisfied. And they want to know, why are you so happy and satisfied and peaceful? And then it's very easy, because there's so much anxiety going on, to talk to them in a way that we will respond. So to give them
Sorry, a couple of points I wanted to make, Mataji. Is one is, I think if we see our life as in 3 divisions, right, which is one is physical, one is mental, and one is spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
If we do our donations for the physical sense, right, like, okay, we pay donation to some charity, which is feeding the hunger, which is good, right? But they are feeding the hunger, it's so temporary that, people are getting the food, and maybe they're getting food couple of times with whatever charity one gives, and then they are happy that, their stomach is full. So that's one, feeding the hunger. Then I think, but the next level is like mental, right? Where you can help in people living a better life, becoming better skill set, maybe better education. And if they get that, then maybe they will be able to satisfy their hunger themselves, right? So if they are giving charity to the mental side, they will be able to take care of the mental state as well as the physical. But then going above, like if you are doing that, if you give it for a spiritual purpose, where people are going to the temples, probably they are getting the peace, their mental state is getting better, and the spiritual state is progressing, which means if their spiritual state is progressing, they'll be able to take care of their mental state, as well as they'll be able to take care of the physical needs. So even if we order those in that sense, in that context, it makes sense that if you do a lot of donation on the spiritual side, by default, it will take care of all these problems which we are facing in the world.
That's a good point.
Yeah, you're perfect. That's the point that Prabhupada would make.
I want to add something to that. It is charity in 3 modes of material nature. Like mode of passion, ignorance, and goodness.
Goodness. Yeah.
I mean, think about the difference, right? One person feeding his stomach for one time, or one person getting a peace and understanding of the life. I think there's a huge difference. So where is the attention working better? And the second thing also is, when we are giving our donations for feeding the hunger and all that, there's a lot of ego engaged, like, oh, I am giving donation to the hospital, I am doing this. Whereas when you are donating to the spiritual cause, hopefully it's less ego or no ego.
People who give to many causes, they want their name on the front door.
You are in the spiritual cause.
There was one man who donated to a hospital, and his last name was Deadman. And it was called Dead Man Hospital, and they had to change the name because even though it was a very bad name for a hospital.
So I look at it slightly different, given the current circumstances where we are today, right? With the pandemic, with so many people unemployed, with so much disease and so much things going on, right? I feel like it's important to not only give to temple, but also to feed the hungry, because the type of environment we are in, right? Our government support keeps declining day by day. So where are the people going to go, right? Somebody have to, I mean, it's not like I'm favoring one over the other, but it's still, I feel like, it's as a...
I think our Srila Prabhupada in India in the 1970s saw that so many people were hungry, so he started a program called Food for Life, in which he said that anyone living near our temples, he said 10 miles. I mean, I'm not sure if he measured, but he wanted to make sure that everybody was fed. So he started the Food for Life program. And our temples in some places like Philadelphia, for instance, have been running a Food for Life program in poor parts of town for decades. So what we would say, and they're serving prasadam. So what we try to do as devotees, we would try ultimately, because I think your point about feeding people in hard times is extremely important. We would ultimately try to tie the spiritual with the welfare for the body, so it's a holistic, completely holistic approach.
So there is a verse in Bhagwad Gita in chapter 18, is verse number 5, where Krishna says, acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. So all of these activities are very purifying. So as we become more and more purified, then we can discern the truth of a spiritual life. So these are all acts of, and Krishna is recommending this. Never, not to be given up, they must be performed.
And all of us have choice. So we have disposable income. And so at this time like this, some of us, we may want to give some money for welfare activities on a more concrete, let's say, material plane, especially in this day and age. And we may want to do that along with giving in charity to a spiritual activity. But the fact is that if we can at least try to see how everything can be connected to a spiritual mission, so that ultimately it becomes a practice in spirituality.
Yeah, that's the ideal position. Yeah.
As I was thinking just now,
we can start something like that in, the kitchen, food kitchen or something like that here in Raleigh, right?
That would be a good thing. Unfortunately, we haven't done it here, but we have done it in different places. That's the ideal. One of the things that we've done in places, especially like in India, we like in Mayapur, we've gone to different places like disaster areas. But it's something that it has been done. We're not doing it here. We're a smaller community and not so many resources to do it. But it's a good idea.
Prabhuji, I want to clarify one thought just came to my mind. Is there a way to rationalize this dichotomy in the sense that if I am thinking that I'm giving to a poor, hungry man, that is one way to view it. You can also view it in the sense that hungry man is a soul and Krishna is residing in the soul.
Yes.
So if you are thinking about giving that charity ultimately to make sure the God, Krishna in that person is not suffering, does that make that same donation spiritual? Not that it's easy to do and see the Krishna in others, but just thinking the same donation when given to a hungry man versus the same donation given to the soul and the Krishna in the soul and looking after that, does that make that same donation spiritual?
Well, I'll give you an answer. A very interesting thing came to mind. Srila Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was alive and preaching in the 20s, preaching a lot in the 20s and 30s, of 1920s and 30s. And he made a point to his disciples, who were mostly brahmacharis and sannyasis, and they were becoming somewhat hard-hearted in the sense that they were so renounced. He told them that you should not ignore the beggars. You should make sure if you see someone suffering that you should help them. So, and get them some food or whatever. So it's important for us to not become hard-hearted. So we can see that giving some food to someone is a very important thing. I would say, though, it's not such a good thing to give someone money, like on the street corner, who says, I want to eat, when he's probably going to go buy wine with it. You want to feed somebody some food. You really want to do them some good, not enable them to do something foolish in their life.
But for us to feed somebody some food,
that's a good thing.
What we do is we offer the food to Krishna, and then we feed that person. So the benefit is double. because this person is eating, but he's also eating prasadam.
Yeah.
So that's an ideal solution, for example, in the case of feeding somebody. And that's what's being done in our society in so many places during disaster zones and wars, where the devotees go and set up big kitchens and they feed people. What they're feeding them is good for the body, but it's actually best for their own souls. The people who are eating that food, they're eating prasadam.
This is a really good discussion because it gets us to think.
Yeah.
If you're really emotional, you can divide 50% in like 10% physical, 20% mental, and 30%.
And one thing I think we need to also think about, it mentions here how sannyasis go door to door, not begging, but to give knowledge to the householders. That's really a particularly Indian example, because in India people do respect the mendicant. In America, we might choose a slightly different way of doing it. But the idea is that we should be trying to give people knowledge about spiritual life some way or another.
Yeah, but because they have no time to earn their livelihood, because they are totally engaged in the spiritual activities.
Yeah.
It's not true for everything else. So.
Well, Brahmanas traditionally would not take any kind of salary. They would take whatever was offered to them in charity without asking for in exchange for what they did. They kept.
We have a different system where in the West it's not so applicable.
Even in India now, money is the honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, because without money one cannot subsist. One has to have some money for the basic needs, and that's why the very beginning of these qualities, one of them was to be satisfied with what Krishna has given without wanting to acquire more and more and never being satisfied. Take whatever Krishna is giving and be satisfied with that without becoming greedy and at the cost of exploiting resources or exploiting people.
All right, I think we're almost close. Let's complete this.
Yeah, there's only a few left, so let's just finish this up this week, and we'll start fresh next week.
Yeah, Parag, do you want to read?
Yashas, fame, should be according to Lord Chaitanya, who said that a man is famous when he is known as a great devotee. That is real fame. If one has become a great man in Krishna consciousness and it is known, then he is truly famous. One who does not have such fame is infamous.
Savitaji?
All these qualities are manifest throughout the universe, in human society, and in the society of the demigods. There are many forms of humanity on other planets, and these qualities are there. Now, for one who wants to advance in Krishna consciousness, Krishna creates all these qualities, but the person develops them himself from within. One who engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord develops all the good qualities as arranged by the Supreme Lord.
Of whatever we find, good or bad, the origin is Krishna. Nothing can manifest itself in this material world which is not in Krishna. That is knowledge. Although we know that things are differently situated, we should realize that everything flows from Krishna.
Good discussion.
Krishna creates all these qualities, but the person develops them himself from within. So and then it says there's good and bad qualities, because Krishna is the origin of everything. So it's up to us to try to develop these godly qualities. Krishna will help us if we try.
Cool.
Good discussion. Thank you for all the input.
Yeah, it's great. These are very practical discussions.
Very long purport.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks to read it.
So, all right. So I think we'll play a bhajan. I think we'll see the dedication and devotion in Moscow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we'll go on the streets of Moscow and see what's going on there. What happened there.
COVID.
And I'll be taking a picture in between.
Старый млад из дома вышли, хоровод образовали. Там для них танцует Кришна. Кришна, Кришна, Харе, Харе, Кришна, Харе, Кришна. Кришна, Кришна, Харе, Харе, Харе Рама, Харе Рама, Рама Рама, Харе Харе. Летом, осенью, весною Кришну славим мы с любовью. Даже небо в синем саре тихо вторит Харе Харе Кришна. Харе Кришна Харе, скоро будут петь повсюду. Харе Кришна Харе Рама. Харе Кришна Харе Кришна, Кришна Кришна Харе Харе.
nice, very nice.
It's a nice devotion.
Yeah, very nice.
And everybody looks so happy. All the devotees look so happy.
Very
Just
colorful.
like nice prasadam.
Yes.
All right, so thank you, Prabhuji.
Well, we
Good to
hope
see everyone.
we'll see everybody soon. Have a great
Have
weekend.
a good weekend.
Hare Krishna. Have a
Hare
nice
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Bol.
So nice to see you.
Bol.
Hare
Always
Krishna.
good to see you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.